Hello there, I'm Jake and we're the Obi-Thorn Alliance doing our first impression of Paramount Plus big TV show Halo. And what do you think about the show, Luke? Are you impressed with it or frustrated?
I'm kind of on the fence with this show.
Me too. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are impressive about it, mainly the action and the CGI. But then I think the storyline so far is letting it down. I know that's early days; it's the first episode, but it's kind of implied what the main theme of this show is going to be, and I think it's moving away from what made the games good to trying to give its own identity, which I don't know if is going to be a good or a bad thing. And then there's also a bunch of little nitpicks I have with it, but overall I'm not overly impressed, but it is early days. What are your first impressions after seeing the first episode?
My first impression is who is this show for? Who are they trying to appeal to? Are they trying to appeal to the fans? Are they trying to appeal for people that haven't played the games and think sci-fi is a cool genre to watch and want to give it a go? I just don't know, because like when I was messaging you when I was watching it, the fight was really cool, and when we first get to see the elites, they don't show them. They, for some reason, focus on the humans. It's like, no, go back to the elites. It's like, elites, that was a really cool fighting scene, and then when the Spartans got there, it's like, this is a really cool fight scene. And then they go away from that, and we get this political drama, and we get a little bit of the Covenant storyline with how there's a human working there, and I feel like that's going to be a side story within a big arcing story.
Yeah, I agree that it's kind of mixed who it's for, because the political side of things seems to me that it's trying to appeal to a wider audience. Like it's trying
Game of Thrones kind of.
Yeah, it's trying to like that if you like sci-fi, you might like it. Let's add this political thing, and we go, oh, this is epic. It's, I guess, trying to build on, like what Star Wars has done, and Star Wars being quite political. They try to add that in, but then by doing that, they've moved away from the gamers that really wanted to see them fight the Covenant and seeing, action. So it's like, it's a mix between. I don't think the storyline's appealing enough for non-Halo fans, but I think it's untrue to the game enough to annoy Halo fans. So it's kind of pissing off both people.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't appeal to really anyone. As I said, I'm on the fence because I played maybe Halo 1 and 2 like a very long time ago when they first came out, and I haven't really continued on from that point. And I do remember liking those games, but I don't remember it being so political. And this show seems to be, and even that, I feel like the politicalness they've gone with is kind of soft. It's like a story that seems like it's been done many times before. The body, the people that are meant to protect you are actually corrupt. And then the people that are meant to be protected by them want to rebel against them. It's very Star Warsy, And then we're going to add in a whole extra element of the Covenant that it's like against both parties, and it's like, I guess it's leading towards maybe the UNFC and the rebels joining forces to take on the Covenant. Like, I'm not sure. But then they threw in this whole element of really giving Master Chief a personality, which I don't know if I like yet. Should we give it like a bit of a recap? Like, I talked about a few things that went there, but maybe a brief recap of kind of what happens in the first episode?
Yes. Shall we start from when we first get like this discussion about when the rebels kind of hear this politician talk about how the UFC with the propaganda with how the Spartans are fake, and then, we kind of get what the show is kind of about.
Yeah, I think they're implying like the UFC is saying like, oh, like they guess they're trying to convince the rebels that they should be on their side and they need to be a bit fearful of, like other things that are out there in the universe. And they're like, propaganda, don't believe it. Spartans this, Spartans that, like Spartans are evil. And then obviously I guess she's kind of like, not the main character, but the second main, like the supporting actor, Kwan, to Master Chief. Her and her friends are out, outside the safety of their outpost and notice, something strange going on, and it's the Covenant. And then fight breaks out, and then, of course, the Spartans come and save the day, but the rebels still think the Spartans are evil.
Yeah.
And then you said that you felt that was... They moved away from seeing the cool fight scenes with the Spartans and the Covenant and more watched the Covenant attacking these innocent humans, which wasn't as... action or as exciting as it would have been to see the Spartans take down the Covenant.
Yeah.
So we have that, and Kwan seems to be the only survivor left, and Master Chief takes her on his ship.
And he also touches the device, and then we see him get this flashback about his childhood, and then he gets very emotional about it.
Yeah, so from that he has this flashback of either his childhood or some kind of recollection of a family. And then from that, he instantly goes from this like heartless killing machine to suddenly having a soul and wanting to protect this young girl after being given orders to destroy her. And before that, she's asked by the UNFC if she would go on and tell the other rebel outpost that, there's this imminent threat that's coming, like, trust the Spartans, trust the UNFC, let's join alliances, which is a good thing, but she blatantly declines. So they see that Master Chief is starting to kind of have a soft spot for her, so they lower the oxygen inside their ship and try to knock them out so that the autopilot would then just bring them home. And he, awakens from it, solves all those problems, decides that I'm not going to let this innocent girl die. I'm going to completely rebel against the UNFC as a singular person and know that all the other Spartans will potentially come after him. And then eventually, with the help of this artifact that he finds, the ship starts again and he takes off. And so we're left with Master Chief going against his orders, and then the UNFC kind of wanting to take him down, but also acknowledging that he's their ultimate weapon that they've spent lots and lots of money on. So do they want to kill him, or do they want to find a way of saving him? But they seem to be aware that he has a past, but they don't want him to know about this. So there's this element that is there some brainwashing or something that's occurred, and are these killing machines Spartans kind of manufactured or something? I feel that's where the story's building towards, which I don't know if that's true to the game. As far as I'm aware, I don't think so. But it's got potential. It just seems like a story that we've seen before.
Yeah.
I feel like there's lots of other shows and movies that have followed this line of, someone who's a killing machine. They realise that there's more to life than that, and they've had a past, and actually the people that they work for are actually the bad guys, and then they flip the switch.
Terminator Constantine.
Yeah, it just seems like something that's just been done over and over again.
I remember you saying you enjoyed the aspect of, and I agree, I think it was cool when we got to see Master Chief in the first person version, in the games. It's yes, focus on this aspect when he was fighting the Covenant. That was probably the best part, and then I don't really see the point of the female character personally. I guess she's the rebel, the rebellion side, but I don't know.
I guess her role is to give reason for Master Chief to
rebel.
Yeah, that's all she really is, and she'll add more to the show. But she was the catalyst for change. Otherwise, he would have just went back to the UNFC and waited for his next mission.
Did you notice that there was mention of the AI program, and that's going to be Katana?
Yeah, Katana. So I feel like that will come into play, because we see in the UNFC there is some good guys and some bad guys, and it seems like a I can't think of her name now, but the doctor with blonde hair, female, she's the one that wants to initiate the Katana program. She seems like she's actually good. So
she tries her best, but her methods are bad with taking away and using people to do stuff. Yeah.
So it's kind of where I think the storyline's going. In terms of positives, you mentioned the first-person shooter. I think that was cool when they did that. You got to see inside the helmet, and it was like you were playing the game. I thought the weapons were really cool. They resembled as they did in the game. I think the Covenant the same. I think Master Chief's costume, resembled exactly the game, but I don't know if you had this same experience, but when I watched it, I was watching it on my iPad, and the quality was extremely good, opposed to if you watched it on a TV and you were a bit further away, but watching it so close, that the costume I could see in such close detail that it actually looked bad. Like it looked plasticky, where if I watched it on a bigger screen, you wouldn't notice it because it would kind of blend in. I feel like I could see the quality has gotten so good in these cameras that they use and the devices we watch them on that I could almost see that his uniform was plasticky, even though it's meant to be like some high grade titanium. And the blood was another one. The blood that was on his mask didn't look realistic to me. You could see that it was painted on, and it probably was paint, where it didn't resemble the drippiness of
Obi, it's okay.
Yeah, it didn't resemble the gooiness or drippiness that was that blood would. So so there's one little thing. But I'm sure fans of the game would appreciate the way it looked, because it did look like the game. I just think the storyline's what's kind of killing it.
Yeah.
What other nitpicks have you got of this show?
I guess the big one, and this is probably the one that fans would probably feel quite decisive about, is the revealing of his face, because in the games they haven't done that yet, and I understand why they did it, because it is a TV show, but maybe it could have been like in The Mandalorian that he doesn't show his face, but it was like in the last episode or near the end of the show. It feels... I understand why they did it, because now she realised that he's a human himself, but I feel like it was too quick.
I think so. I think it's something that required a mid-season reveal or something that people are like, oh, we're finally going to see Master Chief, and it just happened kind of real easy. He willingly took it off to prove a point. It's a strange one. I think for the sake of the show, it needed to happen, because you can't have this guy unable to interact with people, or they want to make him seem personable and relatable, and that he's a hero that's gonna save this girl, and behind the mask, I find that pretty tricky to do.
Yeah.
But I do think it maybe needed a bit of a later reveal, or something more epic to take it off, whether a fight scene or something, not just as simple as, oh, well, if you're gonna kill me, you're not gonna be able to do it unless I take my helmet off. I thought that was a bit weak, just to prove that he was a good guy. He had to show his face.
So who do you think this show really appeals to, and do you think it's even worth watching? Because I enjoyed some aspects of the first episode. I know you started episode 2, but is it even worth continuing? Because we got Moon Knight as well to watch. Miss Marvel's coming soon, and Winning Time. There's just so much content.
Well, that's a tricky one. I think if you're a fan of Halo, you want to give it a watch just for the nostalgia and the Easter eggs that come with it. But I'm also saying if you didn't already have Paramount Plus, I don't think it's worth paying for.
Yeah, New Dexter, New Blood, I think is a way.
So even if you're a Halo fan and you didn't already have Paramount Plus, I wouldn't suggest paying for it. But if you have Paramount Plus and you're a Halo fan, you're probably worth watching. So I don't know. I don't think it's worth the money. I'd hate to think what they've spent on making this show. I just don't see how they're going to make it back or justify it. I don't think it's going to be a hit even though I'm not a fan of The Mandalorian, I don't think it's going to have the success The Mandalorian has had.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be watched by very few people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just think they decided to focus on the wrong things, and unfortunately the person that is the screenwriter or the person in charge didn't play the games themselves, so you can kind of tell that within the story. It feels very weird with what they focus on. It doesn't seem inspired.
Yeah, they're trying to create an epic story out of something that really
isn't epic.
Yeah, like what happens in the games is epic, fine. But they've added, they try to make it political and try and think that that's going to appeal to a wide audience, and I just don't think it does.
Yeah.
So we've talked about good, bad, who might like it. Should we make some kind of predictions of where we think this show might go?
Okay.
Where do you see this show going?
I see it focusing on the Rebels and UNC aspect, and then some people within the UFC want change and some want it to be the same, and some power struggles and some within the company getting in and getting out, and then us getting revealed to Quintana, and because I believe there's going to be a season 2. The Covenant will be, even though they're the main villains, that won't be until near the end when we get the two factions united and then going against the Covenant.
Yeah, I'm thinking along the same lines. I think it's clear there's going to be a division in the UFC. We're going to have those that, want to protect people at all costs but have to do the wrong thing. And then there's people that are like, well, that we can protect people but also do the right thing.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be something to do with this, like, Spartan program that, they've revealed that they're, like, brainwashed, or they were, like, manufactured, or they were, like, taken from their families and their memories were erased. Something to do with that, and Master Chief will unveil that and maybe, like, team up with other Spartans that start to have thoughts and memories again, and then they, like, rebel against the UNFC. And I think Kwan, her role will be to be the uniting factor between the rebels and I guess, I don't know if I'd say the UNFC anymore, whatever this new faction of the UNFC that Master Chief is going to form. And then, as you said, at some point they will then overturn these bad people in the UNFC, and then things will kind of be restored, but then ultimately they've still got to fight the Covenant, and then that will, I guess, be towards the end of the season, or maybe even season 2.
And do you think that sounds like a nice storyline? To me, it just sounds like
in theory, it sounds epic. This idea of if this is correct, like that, people have been, they've been taken from their family, they've been brainwashed, they've been turned into super soldiers, and using the super soldiers, we're going to, restore, justice to the universe and all our, like, outposts, and we're going to keep people in line. And then this extra, and then, like, then they've got to deal with the Covenant. But
that's the main.
But that's like a separate story, but it should be the main story.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I don't know, overturning a corrupt government and making, I don't know, I guess they think the political side is epic, but I don't think it's as epic as, taking down
the Covenant.
Yeah, the actual real threat. So that's where I think it's going to go, and I don't know if it's smart.
As people that have played the games and, like good stories, where do you think the story would have been better served?
I think that it would have been maybe more interesting looking at maybe like an origin story for Master Chief.
And the Spartan program.
Yeah, so maybe like, opposed to him being someone that had like had his memories wiped and like doesn't know why he does what he does, maybe it would have been better that he was just a brave civilian that, got trained and like, I don't know, kind of like, like I think it's something like Captain America, like he had all the right things mentally and the courage, he just lacked the physical ability, so they helped him become like a hero. Like I'd like to think that maybe that, and then there's the Spartan program, and Master Chief is like the ultimate leader, so he leads the Spartans, and then them preparing to sacrifice their lives at any cost to protect the the UNFC and their and the rebels, like even if the rebels didn't exist, but protecting like the universe from this imminent like danger, opposed to it being political.
Yeah.
Like I think that would have been cool, like seeing like them going through their training and him losing some mates and having to fight all these epic battles and just willing to do whatever it takes in order to protect others. I think that would have been more interesting, and I think it will lead towards that, but I don't know if the politics need to be important. Like it's almost implying us as humans, we're actually evil.
Yes.
Like that there's something wrong with us. Like we aren't the good guys in this scenario, really. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that storyline. Maybe even go into the roots of what made the USNC. Maybe, see their motives and then how they actually built up and...
Yeah, like maybe why they were needed. Like did our planet, get destroyed because of war or through global warming and they had to move to space in order for humans to live? Like I don't know. Does Earth exist in this scenario? Like I'm not really sure. Like I think that's more interesting than the politics, but we might be surprised that maybe they've hit the mark and it gets really good. But the moment I'm thinking it's going to be
60 or 70%.
Yeah, something like that. Like maybe even it could even get worse, but at the moment it's probably sitting at like a 60, mid-60s.
Yes. So we are the Obi Thorn Alliance. Hope you enjoyed our first impressions of Halo. Are you going to continue with episode 2, Luke?
Yeah, I'll continue to watch it mainly for the interest of seeing where it goes, but I'm not expecting a lot of it, but I will continue it to at least episode 4 or 5. And if it's still not interesting there, then I'll turn it off. But I can't rate it just off 1 and a bit episodes yet. Without ruling it off, yeah.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, we are the Obi Thorn Alliance. Like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one. Let the Force be with you. Bye-bye.